Hello there! Today it's Zapdos' turn to try its hand at Pokemon Yellow. This is another legendary speedrun, but I think this one is going to be able to beat Moltres. What do you think? Let's get into it. Zapdos' big strength comes from its typing. Electric Flying is an incredible type, and it only has two weaknesses, and that's only Rock and Ice types, which are pretty rare. There are only two trainers that I think could be major issues for Zapdos. The first is Giovanni, and the second is Lorelei in the league. So I think that a lot of the early game is going to be very easy. We start out with the typical route, and we have our Thunderbird off to the races. We pick up our items, we head to the Viridian Forest. As you can see here in this first bug catcher fight, Zapdos does incredible damage. The other advantage it gets over Moltres is that it has Drill Peck and Thunder Shock instead of a turn-based move like Fire Spin. This really makes it fly through these early fights and just get so quickly to Brock. I am slightly lower level because I ran into less wild Pokemon coming to Brock, so I am a little bit nervous that I won't be able to do enough damage. Unlike Moltres, Zapdos doesn't have a special move to use against Brock, it has to use Drill Peck. Thundershock will do no damage. The good thing is that Drill Peck has much higher base power than regular Peck. So actually, the damage is pretty good against Brock, and while it takes a little bit longer, but maybe not that much slower really, because Fire Spin isn't that fast either. I do have to change a couple of the trainers that I fight. Obviously, Zapdos' main issues are going to be against electric Pokemon because it just can't deal much damage yet to those types, as well as rock Pokemon. But anything that's grass type, water type, anything like that is going to be very easy. With Thundershock, I don't actually have to deal with the 70% accuracy of Fire Spin either, which is really helpful. In the Team Rocket fight, you can see Zapdos' dominance just so easily bowls them over. And that gets us to Cerulean City. I head straight to the gym because I have the type advantage here, unlike Moltres, and I'm able to just take out the trainers here for a little extra experience before heading to Misty. I'm not too worried about Misty, even though I'm a pretty low level. My typing is excellent here, my stats are excellent. It should be just a piece of cake, and it turns out it totally is. And Zapdos doesn't stop there, because as we get ready for the rival, even though our moveset is really limited, obviously we only have Thundershock and Drill Peck, that's enough type diversity to be able to do incredible damage against even diverse teams. It'll all be clear skies ahead as long as we don't run into any really defensive rock-type Pokemon. Even in the rival fight, the Sandshrew doesn't deal that much damage or cause any issues because Drill Peck can just deal so much damage. As I wrap up Nugget Bridge and fight the Rocket at the end, I can really see that Zapdos is going to have an excellent time. We are leaving this fight at just about 11 minutes in, which is incredible. We of course stop here and pick up Charmander, and today we're naming Charmander Choose after Choose a Starter, who also makes Pokemon content. Thank you so much for being subscribed and for the support. You are awesome. Make sure to get subscribed as well if you want to see your name pop up here. I do pick up Thunder Wave on the way to Bill's house just because it's another move that Zapdos can learn, and I think it's going to be very useful against Surge. Maybe not so much after that, but it's definitely good to have the option while we can. We get our SSN ticket by saving Bill from his weird experiment, and then we can head back to Cerulean City, fight the Rocket, and head off to Vermilion City. Another show of Zapdos' strength is the Pidgey trainer at the front of Vermilion City. This is an incredibly easy fight with Thundershock, even though it's a pretty low base power. With the same type attack bonus and the just base special from Zapdos, it does incredible damage. Just as a reminder, any moves of the same type as your Pokemon get a 50% stab bonus, which Zapdos is really benefiting from right now because Drill Peck and Thundershock both get this bonus, and it is really showing. And then we can have our rematch against the rival, which kind of goes the same as it did before. Honestly, Zapdos is just such a strong Pokemon and is right now showing to be a better legendary than Moltres. I'm sorry Moltres, but Zapdos is doing incredibly well. That's not to say that it's going to always be that way. There's a couple important trainers and moments that I think are going to be a lot tougher for Zapdos than they were for Moltres. One thing that is easier for Zapdos though is Surge. As I go to Teach Cut, you can see I still don't have a flyer, which is going to be a problem I'm going to have to sort out later. But we head to Surge, and this fight is going to be much easier than it was with Moltres. The Thunderbolt from Raichu is going to be neutral for Zapdos because of the electric typing, and that's going to be a massive benefit. That's going to make this fight much more consistent. Even though Raichu resists Drill Peck, the damage is still good enough that this battle can stay pretty consistent. That gets us access to Thunderbolt, which is going to be the move for Zapdos. It's an incredible move, it deals great damage, it's really the thing that's missing from Moltres' set. After getting the bike, we pick up Squirtle and name it Pablo, after Pablo Delgado. Thank you for being subscribed. We head back to Cerulean City and pick up the bike, and then we can head over to Rock Tunnel. In the tunnel waits one of the biggest hurdles for Zapdos in the early game, and that's the self-destructing Hiker. This guy is going to resist all of Zapdos' moveset at this point. There's nothing I can do except Drill Peck. I could use also Rest if I needed to, but it's really not a good looking fight. I get incredibly lucky here, and I don't get hit by Rock Throw, and I don't get hit by Self-Destruct on the Graveler. This fight could have gone very differently. Zapdos doesn't really have a good way to deal with it. Moltres had Fire Spin to be able to control that situation. Zapdos doesn't. Now that we're out of the cave, we can head over to Celadon City and go do some of our errands. And now we can just kind of chat a little bit about Zapdos. Zapdos was definitely my favorite as a kid of all the 3 legendary birds. I didn't find it first. I found Moltres first, obviously, as it's more in line with your normal route through the game. But I was a little disappointed in Moltres, in all honesty. In battle, it's decent, but once I got Zapdos and learned the power of Drill Peck and Thunderbolt, man, it can really do some damage. I never understood why Moltres and Zapdos don't learn Thunderbolt and Flamethrower on their own in Gen 1. They can only learn Fire Blast and Thunder. Like, while those are really powerful moves, really not as good for the most part as Thunderbolt and Flamethrower, just because of the consistency, the higher base PP, they're just better. I do stop and buy some proteins. This is specifically for Drill Peck. I know that I'm going to be fighting a few Pokemon that I have to use Drill Peck for, so I want this to be doing as much damage as possible. Zapdos actually has lower base attack than Moltres, which then doesn't really make sense why Moltres doesn't get Drill Peck. We can then finally catch our flyer. We have to do it. I had to buy some Great Balls in the mart here in Celadon just to be able to catch this. We named Doduo after Orion. Thank you so much for being subscribed. And that'll be our subscribers for today, but make sure to get subscribed and help support the channel, and I will make sure to mention you or include you in the videos as much as I can. And just a quick update, as I pick up Fly, I will be live streaming from time to time on the weekends, so keep an eye out for those. I'd love to see you guys join. Thank you so much. With Fly, we can head back to Lavender City and fight the rival in Pokemon Tower. Now, at this point, we're level 28. This rival fight should be a piece of cake. We're over leveled for this fight. I guess the developers really wanted you to play this fight right after Rock Tunnel and then find out naturally that you needed the Sylph Scope and then have to go explore the area more. With the rival beat, we can pick up the special flute from Mr. Fuji and then we can head off to Celadon City again. Here we're going to actually clear Erica's gym before moving on because I do have a great typing and I want the experience. Like Moltres, Zapdos is also the slow growth rate. I know this could be an issue in the late game. Like I mentioned, Giovanni and Lorelei could be problems. So I want to overlevel a little bit. Not even really overlevel. I just want to keep pace with other growth rates and try to keep a decent level, which is why I do the training here in Erica's gym. And while they maybe don't give the most experience, because I don't have to walk very much, they are pretty efficient. Erica herself is a breeze. Drill Peck is an incredible matchup into this fight. Thunderbolt isn't that useful, but it does still do decent damage, so I guess it's there. As I wrap up that fight, I realize that I have another TM that I could pick up here that could be useful, and that's Reflect. Now, Reflect is not a move I use very often. Other stat boosting moves like Harden or Amnesia or anything like that are usually better options than Reflect because they trigger the badge boost where Reflect does not. So that is kind of a downside, but it does give decent options against Rock-type Pokemon that maybe use Rock Slide or, really heavy-hitting attacks like that. That's really the only thing I'm really worried about with Zapdos. Since Electric types aren't really a concern for Zapdos, that really limits how many problems I'm going to see. After picking up Surf, I do head to the rival, and then we do see one of those problems. I head into this fight at level 35, which is kind of low, honestly, for most Pokemon. Usually I like to be level 40 here, so being under-leveled could be a problem. Sandslash does decent damage, but it poisons me, which puts me on a timer. I know that Cloyster is easy. Magneton is going to take multiple Drill Pecks, but the accuracy drops, it's just rough. It's such an unlucky try. I feel like with better luck, Zapdos would have had no problem there at all, so I was kind of disappointed in how that played out. I head back in and I try to get just better luck this time and see if that was just like a one-off issue or if this is actually going to be a hard fight. This time Sandslash doesn't poison me and doesn't really do that much damage since it's randomly kind of switching between moves. Cloyster is obviously not an issue. Magneton actually is not nearly as much of a problem this time. It can't actually paralyze me here. I'm an electric type, so I can't get paralyzed by Thunder Shock or any other electric moves except for Thunder Wave. But I don't know if the AI actually is going to even know that for later. Drill Peck obviously makes Kadabra really easy, and Flareon, while it doesn't have any big weaknesses to Zapdos, its defense is not great, so it's actually really easy. Now you may expect Giovanni to be a little bit difficult. His Rhyhorn and Nidoqueen have type advantages against the electric type, and while Drill Peck doesn't deal a ton of damage against Rhyhorn, and it's a little bit slow going, with Reflect, they can't do much damage to me either. As I get to Nidoqueen, my biggest concern really is getting paralyzed by Body Slam maybe, but luckily Drill Peck is actually still decent against Nidoqueen because it doesn't resist, so really not too bad. As we wrap that up and head over to Koga, we can talk a little bit more about Zapdos. As a kid, Zapdos was the first legendary Pokemon that I just struggled to catch. As I said, I found Moltres first, and not knowing anything about the game and having a Master Ball, I just used it, right? Because I knew of the legendary birds already at that point. I found Moltres, I'm like, look, there's one, and I just caught it. Then later, when I was still playing that same save file, because as a kid, I would just play the same save file forever, hours and hours, I didn't have my Master Ball anymore. I tried that battle over and over with only a couple of Ultra Balls and mostly Pokeballs trying to catch a Zapdos. It was so hard. That might be why I thought it was so strong as a kid, but also it's just a great Pokemon. I'm not going to outspeed the Alakazam, unfortunately, at this point, even with Koga's badge boost, but as long as it doesn't hit anything that is like devastating, I should be fine. I head back to Pallet Town with the thought of heading over to Blaine, but then I realized I might as well teach Mimic because I need it for later. Maybe it could be useful against Blaine. I'm really not using Thundershock at this point. Might as well just update my moveset and just have the options. After picking up the secret key in the Pokemon Mansion, I can head over to Blaine. And for this fight, I am pretty underleveled. Level 41 is pretty low. I probably could have used a couple of rare candies in all honesty. This probably would have been easier if I was level 45. The Confuse Ray from Ninetales is just a really strong start to this fight. He is much better in yellow than he is in red and blue. I like the Ninetales start. It's actually a lot more intimidating. It feels like he deserves to be one of the last gym leaders now. And even on my second try here, it gets really close. Rapidash, it actually has a pretty good attack stat, and with Takedown it can deal some good damage, but I get past with just a little bit of health, then I get really lucky against Arcanine. Thunderbolt's doing decent damage, it's setting up Reflect and kind of wasting time, it gets paralyzed, and then I can win. It actually goes really well. At this point, I do make a pit stop over at the power plant in order to pick up the other rare candy over here. There is still another Zapdos in the corner there if I wanted another one, but I like the one I have. I head over to Giovanni's gym now, and I'm getting to him at under 50 minutes, which is awesome. Zapdos is looking like it could finish the game at less than an hour of real time, which is awesome. Luckily, a lot of Giovanni's really strong attacks can't hit me. I do go into this fight and try to set up double team at the Persian. This is just a good tactic for any Pokemon that have any weaknesses at Giovanni, like Thunder on the Nidos or Earthquake. For this fight, I'm actually scared of the Rock Slide on Rhydon, which is kind of a rare thing to be worried about. So I set up 6 evasion on the Nidoqueen, just trying to get ready for that Rhydon. This badge boosts my attack, so I can also get through Nidoqueen and Nidoqueen with Drill Peck much easier. The badge boosts are just really strong. As I get to Rhydon, I'm really scared because my defense is dropped, and it hits a Rock Slide right away. That's incredible luck. That's like a 20% chance, and it gets it the first try. Unreal. But I know this tactic is going to work as long as the Rhydon just doesn't get super lucky on the first turn. So I go in and I have the exact same strategy. I try to get to the Nidoqueen, I start setting up double team because I know Nidoqueen can't really do anything against me. I think Giovanni's AI at this point is not using Thunder because it sees that I'm an electric type, so that's really useful. I can actually one-hit the Nidoking when I'm set up, which is kind of crazy to me. And then I get much luckier against Rhydon, and I get multiple turns of Drill Peck in without getting hit by Rock Slide, and I can finally take him out. That sets us up to fight the rival again on Route 22, right before we head to the league. At the rival, I get a crit against the Sandslash turn 1, so I get through him pretty easily, which is nice. Execute and Cloyster are going to be really a breeze. It's really the Magneton that's going to resist me, and even that I'm not too worried about because it can't deal a ton of damage back. Supersonic and Thunderwave could be problematic, but I don't think it's going to use Thunderwave because it thinks it's an electric type move, so I think I'm pretty safe. Kadabra is still really easy with Drill Peck, and Flareon is kind of the same. It does have Flamethrower now, which does decent damage, but that isn't really an issue for Zapdos. With the rival defeated, I can head toward Victory Road and bonk into a wall a bunch of times before finally getting through the door. And that gets me to Victory Road. Here I'm going to actually fight a couple of trainers, including this cool trainer that has a water type team. I like his team actually. Kingler, Tentacruel, and Blastoise. Pretty solid in all honesty. Too bad Zapdos just makes quick work of them. And with that, we get to the league and we can fight Lorelei. Now, Lorelei is pretty much going to be the Bruno of today's league. This fight is just going to be so easy with Thunderbolt. I'm not even going to set up. I'm not even going to mimic anything. It's just going to be Thunderbolt straight through, and it is really as easy as that. I do use Drill Peck against Jinx because Jinx has much lower defense than Special. Even Lapras gets taken out in one hit. Granted, it's a critical hit, so maybe it could have survived and used Blizzard. I don't think it would have even been that much of an issue though because it had decent health. Now on to Bruno. Bruno here is kind of a mixed bag. Onix has incredible defense, so Drill Peck isn't really a good option. I do have to use Mimic to get Dig in order to take out Onix more easily. Thinking it through now, I could even steal Ice Punch from Hitmonchan, and that would have been awesome for Onix. That would have been really funny. But the fighting type Pokemon are really easy with either Drill Peck or Thunderbolt. Both would be good options here. So even though his fight is a little bit slower than normal, it's actually not too bad. That gets me to Agatha, and I can just kind of use the regular strategy here. just mimic Substitute and then use either Thunderbolt or Drill Peck to slowly knock out all of her team. Gengar keeps using Substitute here though. It's just trying to stall for time and trying to make things a little bit more annoying, but I'm able to get past it. Golbat is easy with Thunderbolt. Haunter's also a one-hit with Drill Peck, which is really nice to avoid the Hypnosis. Arbok actually survives and requires another hit, which does give the opportunity for Glare. I'm not sure if Glare hits through Substitute though, so you'd have to let me know in the comments if that would work. But without any major weaknesses or really anything to really be too scared of, Agatha, while annoying, isn't actually that bad. I think Zapdos wins this pretty much every time. And now to the second Bruno of today's run, Lance. With Thunderbolt, Gyarados is just a piece of cake. Dragonair does take 2 hits. I set up Reflect just in case since it used Hyper Beam on that first turn. And then at the second Dragonair, I can mimic Ice Beam. I do get hit by Ice Beam, which could have frozen me. It was a little bit risky, but I'm able to knock it out with Ice Beam on the next turn. Aerodactyl is easy with Thunderbolt, and then Dragonite goes down with Ice Beam. Simple as that. After which I use some rare candies before I go to the champion, and I get to learn Light Screen. Now Light Screen is probably better than Reflect at this point, so I just learn it in case. I do have the TM for Rest, but I wanted to try this fight without it and just go straight in, trying to just get under that 1 hour mark. I don't think it's going to happen though, it's pretty close timing. Science Slash does some decent damage, but I am able to steal Earthquake, and then I can knock out Alakazam with that. Earthquake is going to be a really nice addition to this moveset. Executor goes down really easily with Drill Peck, which is nice. And then we get to Magneton, which is where I really wanted the Earthquake, to be able to take this out as quickly as possible and not have to deal with Screech or Thunder Wave or any other issues. Cloyster then is another easy one hit with Thunderbolt, and that gets us to Flareon, that while it has Flamethrower and can do some decent damage, with Earthquake I can just knock it right out. And with that, Zapdos has completed the game. It was better than Moltres. It got a time of 1 hour and 24 seconds with 3 hours and 51 minutes of game time. Thank you so much for watching. We have another legendary bird coming next week, Articuno. Stay tuned for that. Have a wonderful day.